Feilu Novel Network exclusive contract novel. Zongwu. Me, Zhang Sanfeng, suppress the Jianghu. Travel through the world of Zongwu and become the founder of Wudang, Zhang Sanfeng. Awakening the system, start cultivating immortals. Others practice martial arts, but I am a poor cultivator. Coincidentally, the 5 disciples Zhang Cuishan returned, and the 5 major sects forced Zhang Cuishan to hand over Xie Xun's whereabouts. Just as Zhang Cuishan committed suicide, Zhang Sanfeng stood up. 5 major sections. Zhang Zhenren, do you want to bless people in the demon cult? Zhang Sanfeng's face remained calm as he said, it's either evil or evil. I have my say. If I say it's a demon, it's a demon. If I say it's not, it's not. The original centenary banquet has become a resting place for the 5 major sections. On that day, Wudang's blood flowed like a river. Until one day Zhang Sanfeng went down the mountain alone to the 5 major sections. From then on, there will be no more 5 major sects in the Ming Dynasty. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Invincible. At the beginning, I'm Zhang Sanfeng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wudang Mountain, starting from the mountaintop and facing outward, is lush with trees and dense forests on the mountain. From the outside, Wudang Mountain looks even more wonderful. From the foot of the mountain, there is a faint step that goes up the mountain and straight into the clouds. Between the clouds, there is a pavilion called Jianghu Temple. Under the sunshine, the mountains around are clear and beautiful, with occasional birds flying by, creating a melodious atmosphere. At this moment, inside the Jianghu Temple, there is an elegant land. A person crossed their knees and sat on a cushion, crossing their hands to pinch the formula, exuding a sense of transcendence throughout their body. Up and down, the blue Taoist robe is ancient and rustic. That person, with white beard and hair hanging casually, had long hair and tightly closed eyes, but there were not many wrinkles on his face. However, despite this, it still looks like a fairy-like figure, like an extraordinary expert. After a long time, I saw the Taoist breathing heavily on the futon, and then his eyes opened. As the person slowly opened their eyes, it felt a bit strange. Seemingly surprised and incredulous, a pair of eyes were full of doubt, looking around. After looking for a long time, his eyebrows furrowed, his gaze lowered, and he looked at himself again. Just as I was about to open my mouth, before I could even speak, I saw my eyebrows furrow and the Taoist's gaze also darken. The long words also turned into a cold breath. With a puzzled voice, the Taoist widened his eyes and looked in front of him. For a moment, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. The surprise came quickly and violently, and at the same time, it faded away quickly, like a tide, surging in and out. After fading away, only the length remained slightly surprised. Seemingly incredulous, he looked around and at his wrinkled hands. After confirming, he chuckled. For the surrounding scenery, there are no strangers anymore, they are all familiar. Time travel. The Taoist spoke calmly and said 2 words, still digesting his memory in his mind. Just now, that was the memory of my past life after crossing over. And with digestion, the young man also knows more and more. The more you digest it, the more interesting it becomes. I didn't expect to cross over and become Zhang Sanfeng. Zhang Sanfeng felt his strength and only felt a burst of joy. Before Zhang Sanfeng's realm, in the present world, there were probably not many who could beat him. Moreover, Zhang Sanfeng has now created many Wudang martial arts, which are even more profound and unfathomable. As for why, there are not many who can beat themselves. But thinking about it, Zhang Sanfeng felt inexplicably sad. If we say why, it's because of our own disciples. My 7 disciples were known as the 7 heroes of Wudang, but the ultimate result was not good. In addition, Zhang Sanfeng also realized that the world he traveled through was not only the best in the world, but more like a world of comprehensive martial arts. And in my memory, although the great Ming had strong national strength, in this world, he was just a vassal state. In addition to the Ming Dynasty, there are also countries such as the Song Dynasty, the Sui Dynasty, and Liang. These countries, like Daming, can be called the great powers of this world. In addition to major powers, there are also small countries such as Bailey, Ongwa, Wugwa, Dali, Tubo, and so on. Zhang Sanfeng carefully savors his memory. The more he savors it, the more interesting it becomes. This world of martial arts is vast and boundless. Just in my memory, so many countries have already appeared. Even though I was invincible in the Ming Dynasty and lived for 99 years, I still cannot remember the whole picture of this world. I only know that besides big countries, there are also big countries, and besides small countries, there are also small countries. Beyond the country, it seems endless and endless. Moreover, within various countries, there are also experts. Such as Wang Xianji, who is the second best in the world in Liang, and Li Chungang, who has never given birth to me. His swordsmanship is as eternal as that of Li Chungang in the long night. There is also Li Yuanba. However, compared to these, Li Yuanba appears somewhat insignificant. As both countries in this world of martial arts, there is also a unified boundary division. From childhood to adulthood, it can be divided into three categories. Acquired, innate, master, great master, supreme master, land deities, heavenly beings, and shattered void. And among them, each realm is divided into 9 levels. The first 3 levels can be divided into the early stage, the middle 3 levels belong to the middle stage, and the last 3 levels belong to the late stage. Although it may seem like there are not many realms, if you want to improve, each realm is vastly different, one in the sky and one in the earth. Breakthrough is even more difficult. So in this world, those with high realms have immeasurable strength. Just like Zhang Sanfeng himself, now in the late stage of land immortality, he is only one step away from heaven and humanity. Although the realm is only of the 7th grade, if refined, it is far inferior. These 3 realms, such as acquired, innate, and master, can already be considered strong in the crowd, and those who practice are also physically strong. After passing the Grand Master and reaching the level of Grand Master, I feel fulfilled and strong in my body. After arriving at the Supreme Master, his internal strength was perfected and he began to reshape himself, breaking through the human realm. He utilized the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, flew in the air, and even directly increased his lifespan by reaching the land immortals. Tianren also belongs to the level of earth immortals, and can be considered a true immortal. As for the shattered void, it literally means to soar directly. As Zhang Sanfeng was pondering, a mechanical system sounded in his mind. Ding, successfully traversed the host and awakened the cultivation system. The sound rang out, and in front of Zhang Sanfeng, a light blue transparent panel appeared directly. Looking up and down, there is also an option on the blue transparent panel. As the host has experienced it for the first time, a special gift package is given to the host as a beginner. Zhang Sanfeng looked and extended his finger, pointing into the airspace. Suddenly, a flash of light was seen. The front panel will change again. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the technique. Tai Chi Xianqing Dao, Taoist Mind Method. Harmony with light and dust, Huan Yen Dan *1, as the words fell, various techniques appeared on the transparent panel in front of Zhang Sanfeng. Even Zhang Sanfeng, who had already integrated his memories, was a bit surprised. At the beginning, Zhang Sanfeng also thought of some of the gifts given in the system gift package, probably some fruit pills to increase his cultivation. But to my surprise, the system made a big move this time and directly gave me a few immortal spells. Let's take a look at the techniques in the system panel. Zhang Sanfeng knows some of them, especially Tai Chi Xianqing Dao, which Zhang Sanfeng is very familiar with. Stretching out his finger and soaring into the air again, he saw an indication of the fading of the sky and earth. The essence of Tai Chi's mystical and pure Tao, as well as all kinds of miraculous techniques, was comprehended by Qinjianzi in that nameless ancient scroll 3,000 years ago. After careful study by the predecessors of Qinyan sect, it is an unparalleled and mysterious Tao that captures the creation of heaven and earth. After speaking, Zhang Sanfeng's heart moved as he began to practice. At this moment, Wudang Mountain outside the door was very lively, and a group of Taoist priests were busy decorating it for nothing else, just because Zhang Sanfeng was celebrating his 100th birthday in a few days. Chapter 2. The undercurrent flows. Are you really coming to celebrate birthday? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hurry up, get busy. The Wudang sect is extremely lively, surrounded by crowds of people. After all, it is Zhang Sanfeng and Zhang Zhenren's 100th birthday, so we naturally need to prepare earlier. At this moment, inside Zhang Sanfeng's quiet room, he lightly closed his eyebrows and activated the mental technique sent by the system. The beginner's gift package for the system is very useful. Zhang Sanfeng is already proficient in yin-yang Tai Chi and has created techniques such as Tai Chi sword and Tai Chi boxing. Now, with the addition of the Tai Chi Xianqing Dao sent by the system, it is like adding wings to a tiger and adding icing on the cake. Different from the hustle and bustle outside. Within 500 steps outside Zhang Sanfeng's quiet room, no one dared to approach, afraid of disturbing the leader's cultivation. Tai Chi Xianqing Dao has 3 realms: Yuqing, Shangqing, and Taiqing. Among them, Yuqing realm is the first entry path and only the foundation. However, its martial arts are mysterious, including many intelligent and talented individuals. Throughout their lives, they will not be able to break through Yuqing realm. However, even so, the cultivation at the top level of Yuqing realm is already a transcendent posture. The Shangqing realm is a place to enter, but the difference between it and the Yuqing realm cannot be compared. It is not a genius who has been immersed in it for decades and cannot see its path. It is not a great talent, a great creation, and cannot be broken through. In the Taiqing realm, one reaches the pinnacle of perfection, reaching the unparalleled realm of the legendary Tai Chi Xianqing Dao. According to legend, only a few have reached the Taiqing realm since its creation. During Zhang Sanfeng's practice, as the Xianqing Dao of Tai Chi was internalized by Zhang Sanfeng's practice, he saw an airflow soaring into the sky. The airflow was extremely strong, soaring straight into the sky, surprising the busy Taoist priests ahead. Grandmaster, you have gained new insights after being isolated. In the quiet room, Zhang Sanfeng exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and slowly opened his eyes. Just now, I have been practicing the Xianqing Dao of Tai Chi and have directly completed the first level of cultivation in Yuqing. As for the realm, it far exceeds its original self. Tai Chi's profound and pure way is indeed a good martial art. In addition to practicing, Zhang Sanfeng also took the Huanyan pill. Zhang Sanfeng is now 100 years old, and although his realm is a land immortal, he also has wrinkles on his face. After taking the Huanyan pill, I saw that the wrinkles on Zhang Sanfeng's face disappeared directly, and he looked like a child with crane hair. According to my past life memories, during Zhang Sanfeng's centenary banquet, the 5 major sects besieged Wudang Mountain, and his 5 disciples Zhang Cuishan and Yin Susu's wife would surely die. He also let his disciple Zhang Wuji receive the Xianming divine palm. Thinking of this, there were ripples in Zhang Sanfeng's calm eyes, like rippling water. How can one be imprisoned while being a disciple of Wudang? After a murmur, Zhang Sanfeng closed his eyes again and sat cross-legged. Cuishan, this time, I will make the decision for you. Time flies, and as soon as Zhang Sanfeng sits down, it only takes a few days. Zhang Sanfeng, who has already reached the realm of land immortals, has no need for food and drink. In addition, with the operation of the Tai Chi Xianqing Dao technique, Zhang Sanfeng's whole body was covered in a faint radiance. On the other hand, there is no exaggerated form at the main entrance of Wudang Mountain, only a few lanterns are hung. After all, Zhang Sanfeng's birthday is also a matter of the Wudang sects.On family. However, at the foot of Wudang Mountain, many people gathered. This also makes the deserted tea house at the foot of the mountain lively. Shop owner. Have a pot of good tea. At the entrance of the tea house, two big men pushed open the door and shouted loudly. This tea house is not very big. As soon as I pushed open the door, I saw that there was no place to stand inside the tea house. Big brother, there are quite a few of them. At the door, one of the big men spoke softly. They have been wandering in the martial arts world for many years, and when they looked around, they knew that the people who came this time were all from the martial arts world, and they were also mixed with good and bad people. Just come and do it. The other big man spoke coldly, found a place, and sat down abruptly. When the shop owner arrived, the big man held a tea cup, pondered for a moment, looked up, and looked at the shop owner. Shop owner, I'm asking you, how long has this tea house business been like this? My guest, since half a month ago, the business of our small shop has been like this. Upon hearing this, the big man pondered carefully and nodded lightly. Okay, those two guests should drink first and call me when you have something to do. Leaving behind a sentence, the shop owner was already busy. This time, I'm afraid the visitor is not kind. The big man turned his teacup and spoke in a gloomy tone. After the stability of the Ming Dynasty, in the martial arts world, numerous heroes and experts emerged, and major sects emerged one after another. Under the country, these sects, in order to compete for the strongest martial arts, are bleeding profusely. And this time I came to attend Zhang Sanfeng's birthday banquet, saying it was to pay respects to Zhang Zhenren, but ultimately, it was all because of one person. Zhang Wuxia. Zhang Cuishan. Not for anything else, only for Zhang Cuishan to know the secret of the dragon-slaying saber in the martial arts world. In the martial arts world, there are two treasures of divine weapons, namely the heavenly sword and the dragon-slaying saber. If you acquire both, you have the qualification to dominate the martial arts world, and if you acquire one, you will also have the capital to dominate the martial arts world. The heavenly sword is in the hands of the Extinction Abyss, who has high magical power. These sects dare not even think of the heavenly sword. So, after calculation, only the dragon-slaying knife in the hand of the Golden Lion King is the only possibility that can be obtained. Jianghu people also know that the Golden Lion King and Zhang Cuishan are sworn brothers. Only by seeing Zhang Cuishan can one possibly know the whereabouts of the Golden Lion King and the dragon-slaying saber. As for Wudang, Zhang Sanfeng sits in Wudang and is a quiet cultivator who does not enjoy the hustle and bustle. In his eyes, being 100 years old is just ordinary. If we were to celebrate, it would just be coming out and gathering with the younger generation, hastily. But who would have thought that the news of Zhang Cuishan's return to the mountains was spread by someone unknown? As a result, people from various sects and factions in the martial arts world gathered at Wudang Mountain. On the mountain, Song Yuanxiao is also a bit difficult. Wudang sect is a prestigious and righteous sect. Now that the leader is celebrating his birthday, so many people have suddenly gathered at the foot of the mountain. There are countless sects, and before anyone arrives, the ceremony arrives first. If we simply turn a blind eye and refuse, it would also damage our identity as Wudang. But if we agree, then this group of mermaids and dragons mixed together, saying there are no ghosts is false. Song Yuanxiao sighed lightly and said, "How about this?" In the quiet room, Zhang Sanfeng opened his eyes again and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. After taking the systematic pills and practicing the Xianxia Dao of Tai Chi, Zhang Sanfeng's body is undergoing transformation, becoming a bit younger. After calculating the time, it was also the day of one's own birthday. Get up, take a step, and as soon as you step out of the quiet room, you see Song Yuanxiao hesitating at the door. As soon as Zhang Sanfeng stepped out of the mountain, Song Yuanxiao's whole body was stirred up and he quickly bowed and bowed. I apologize for disturbing Master Qingxiu. Upon hearing this, Zhang Sanfeng waved his hand and with a glance, he understood these things. Master. After pondering for a moment, Song Yuanxiao finally decided to speak up. Master, there are many sects outside Wudang Mountain, led by Shaolin, Kongtong, Kunlun, Ename, who all say they want to congratulate you on your birthday. Speaking of this, Song Yuanxiao frowned lightly and said, but Wudang has always been a pure cultivator and does not ask about things in the martial arts world. Now that they have suddenly arrived, my disciples are afraid. Halfway through, Song Yuanxiao dared not speak, but looked up at Zhang Sanfeng. As for Song Yuanxiao's words, Zhang Sanfeng knew his posture. Since Zhang Cuishan stepped into the Central Plains, major sects have started to stir up undercurrents and engage in hidden struggles. Now, surprisingly, it has come up to Wudang. Zhang Sanfeng lowered his hand and looked forward with a deep gaze. After a while, he withdrew his gaze. Since you're here, Wudang can't do without etiquette. Yuanxiao, go down and prepare. Master. This. Song Yuanxiao still hesitated and worried, as he could see that these people were probably from bad intentions. But before he could speak, the last sentence was interrupted by Zhang Sanfeng. Just go ahead. Coincidentally, Wudang has been closed for many years. Today, we should also take a look at these sections. Chapter 3. Up the Mountain. Congratulations. Ask Xie Xun's whereabouts again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing these words, Song Yuanxiao's expression was somewhat strange. Just now, Song Yuanxiao mustered the courage to look up at his master Zhang Sanfeng, but this time he felt a bit speechless. After the master passed the level this time, it seemed like he had changed a person, but if there was any change, Song Yuanxiao couldn't tell. Without much thought, Song Yuanxiao withdrew his thoughts and looked up at Zhang Sanfeng again. By the way, master. In front of him, Zhang Sanfeng nodded lightly and his gaze fell on Song Yuanxiao. Due to practicing the Xianxing Dao of Tai Chi, his gaze fell on Song Yuanxiao in an instant, and his ability and realm were fully understood by Zhang Sanfeng. But after a few glances, Zhang Sanfeng didn't care either. He knew exactly what his disciple looked like. Master, fifth brother has returned. As soon as these words were spoken, Zhang Sanfeng's calm face also began to smile. Has Cuishan returned? Song Yuanxiao nodded with a smile, his heart also filled with joy. Since Zhang Cuishan left last time, there has been very little news, only some rumors in the martial arts world. In addition, Wudang is detached from the situation, and although some disciples go down the mountain to experience, Wudang does not pay much attention to it. Regarding the news about Zhang Cuishan, recently it has been heard that he has suffered great hardships since he set foot in the Central Plains. At the thought of this, there was a hint of killing intent in the smile on Zhang Sanfeng's face. If Wudang doesn't take action, do people really think that Wudang is easy to bully? Hurry up, bring me and see me. Yes. After Song Yuanxiao finished speaking, he turned around and left. After a while, Zhang Sanfeng heard a burst of laughter getting closer and closer. Fifth brother, when you come back this time, you happen to have more conversations with Master. Master loves you the most. That's natural, big brother. After I went down the mountain, I also missed you very much. After a round of pleasantries, Zhang Cuishan followed Song Yuanxiao directly to Zhang Sanfeng. At the sight of Zhang Sanfeng, Zhang Cuishan's figure was accompanied by his movements, and he couldn't say a word. Only the smile on the face, solidified on the face. Can smile with a smile, but always feel bitter. In front of him, Zhang Sanfeng stood in a plain robe, looking at Zhang Cuishan with a smile, as if he was growing. Indeed, Zhang Cuishan is still a child in front of Zhang Sanfeng. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Cuishan calmed his emotions and immediately arched his hand. Disciple Zhang Cui. But halfway through, Zhang Cuishan choked up and hesitated for a while before continuing to speak. Disciple Zhang Cuishan, I have met my master. Zhang Sanfeng smiled lightly and shook his head. He took 2 steps forward and reached out his hand to gently help Zhang Cuishan up. Come on, let me take a good look at you, teacher. Observing Zhang Cuishan's appearance, Zhang Sanfeng also felt a bit distressed. The disciple in front of him had lost his vitality and added a touch of vicissitudes and dust. I've been wrong since I came back this time. Zhang Cuishan had mixed emotions and gently shook his head. Don't worry, Cuishan, you're home now. After speaking, Zhang Sanfeng's gaze turned and fell on Yin Susu. As soon as her gaze fell, the aura of the land immortal unconsciously dissipated. Yin Susu only felt an inexplicable pressure and dared not act recklessly. Master, this is my wife, Yin Susu. Zhang Sanfeng nodded lightly and said, I know. After you left, I heard a lot about you. After you got married to Yin Susu, you gave birth to a son, right? Speaking of which, Zhang Cuishan's smile solidified on his face, and then it turned into a bitter smile. Master, it's a long story. Don't worry, we've all gone home. Let's talk to my teacher slowly. Speaking, Zhang Sanfeng took Zhang Cuishan and his wife directly to the quiet room. At the foot of the mountain, it was extremely lively at this moment, and all the people who were going up the mountain gathered at the foot. Although the crowd was noisy, for a while, there was still no one taking the lead. Learn from a famous teacher. Like them, although they claim to be prestigious and upright, the martial arts world is still legitimate, and they still have to wait for major sects such as Shaolin, Kong Tong, Anime to take the lead. Without these major factions taking the lead, they wouldn't be able to speak. After waiting for a while, the crowd also became a bit impatient. Didn't Zhang Cuishan come to Wudang today? Yeah, Zhang Cuishan has already arrived at Wudang, why haven't he gone up the mountain yet? What are these monks and nuns waiting for? The crowd was whispering in small groups. Just as I spoke a few words, I heard a sound of Amitabha Buddha coming from not far away. With a Buddhist chant, everyone quieted down. Following the direction of the sound, they saw 3 Shaolin divine monks, Kong Wen, Kong Ji, Kong Xing, and Kunlun He Tai Chong, walking slowly forward. These people are all martial arts masters of the same generation as Zhang Sanfeng, and they are also the leaders of the righteous faction. Seeing this, the crowd also spontaneously gave way. Amitabha Buddha. The empty text lightly recited the Buddhist name and slightly tilted his head, saying, Benefactors, it is now the birthday of the Wudang sect leader Zhang Zhenren. Our congratulations are similar. Let's set off now. After speaking, the 2 masters Kong Ji and Kong Xing remained silent and chanted the Buddhist name together. Benefactor He Tai Chong, what do you mean? Zhang Zhenren from Wudang has lived to be 100 years old, and it's normal for me to wait and see. Since that's the case, let's go then. After speaking, the 3 masters recited the Buddha's name, leaned on their Zen sticks, and began to climb the mountain. At the entrance of Wudang, Song Yuanxiao and the other Wudang 5 heroes stood at the door to welcome them. Zhang Songxi frowned as he saw the swaying forest below and said, Big brother, isn't this person here too many? Upon hearing this, Song Yuanxiao remained silent, but instead looked at the slowly swaying forest and said, 4th brother, what do you think? Big brother, you know in your heart that when my master celebrated his birthday, I didn't see these people so enthusiastic. But unfortunately, it's this year, and with the return of my 5th brother, I'm just worried that this birthday is fake and I have other thoughts. After speaking, Zhang Songxi clenched his sleeve. At this point, it's useless to say anything. Wudang is also a prestigious and upright sect. With so many people coming, if we refuse directly, it may damage our reputation and we can only welcome them in. Speaking of this, Song Yuanxiao pondered for a moment and turned to look at Yin Lighting. Sixth brother, go to the quiet room and report to the master. Lighting nodded lightly and turned away. At this moment, inside the quiet room, Susu trembled slightly, not because the room was cold, but because Zhang Sanfeng was a little angry. Although he had tried his best to restrain himself, he couldn't restrain himself at all. My favorite disciple, who has suffered so much injustice outside, has now been kidnapped by thieves due to Xie Xun's whereabouts. Do you really think that there is no one in Wudang? Zhang Sanfeng's expression was calm, but a ripple spread all over his body. The ripple washed into the quiet room, directly crushing the furniture except for the three people into a pile of powder. Upon reflection, Zhang Sanfeng adjusted and regained his internal strength. Zhang Cuishan and Susu looked surprised. I haven't seen you in these years. How could my master's skill be so strong? Without waiting to speak, outside the door, Lighting's voice came out. Master, they're here. Chapter 4. As a teacher, I say it is righteous, that is, righteous. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 4. As a teacher, I say it is righteous, that is, righteous. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Outside the quiet room, Lighting arched his hand and spoke softly, with a hint of urgency in his tone. Inside, Zhang Cuishan sighed deeply upon seeing the situation and looked up at Zhang Sanfeng. Master, these people are coming towards me. I will go now. However, as the words fell, Zhang Sanfeng's expression was gloomy, with his head slightly lowered, as if pondering. After thinking for a while, Zhang Sanfeng's gaze showed a hint of determination, and he immediately looked up and spoke towards the door. Tell Xianxia to welcome the guests and not lose the courtesy, but if anyone dares to be reckless, then just clear them out. Zhang Sanfeng's voice was not high, but when his voice came out, it carried waves of majesty and a sense of solemnity after his words. When this meaning came out, it shook Lighting's whole body. Unable to resist, Lighting looked up at the quiet room and dared not speak too much. He bowed and said yes, then turned around and left. In the quiet room, Zhang Cuishan breathed heavily. When he returned to Wudang Mountain to see Zhang Sanfeng, he didn't expect to cause so much trouble. Now all the additional factions are gathered together, and Zhang Cuishan knows exactly why. Taking a glance at Susu, Zhang Cuishan saw that Susu was also looking at him. With a glance at each other, Zhang Cuishan breathed a sigh of relief and had a decision in his heart. Master, let's also follow along. Zhang Cuishan spoke with determination in his tone, and then stood up. He also knew that this was probably the last time he would see his master, so he gave Zhang Sanfeng a deep glance and choked up a bit. Then, he arched his hand and bowed deeply. In front of him, Zhang Sanfeng chuckled lightly and shook his head. Cuishan, you're a good kid. You're just a pedant. After saying these words, Zhang Cuishan didn't react and looked up in surprise. As a teacher, I have already said that once you return to Wudang Mountain, you will be returning home. What are you worried about in your own home? 2 words were given to Zhang Cuishan, but then, as if he had realized something, he looked up at Zhang Sanfeng in disbelief, called out, Master, and blurted it out. Master, you're welcome to go. Zhang Sanfeng gently waved his sleeve and said, As I said, I am here, and no one can move you. On the side, Susu felt a sense of disappointment upon hearing this. Zhang Sanfeng had been avoiding the world and cultivating for many years, but now, surprisingly, for the sake of Zhang Cuishan, he wants to venture back into the waters of this martial arts world. It was Zhang Cuishan who was moved by Zhang Sanfeng's words, but then he pondered for a moment and shook his head gently. I thanked Master, but... Master, there are many people coming to Wudang this time, and I'm afraid there may be a sense of coercion. The disciples feel that they cannot tarnish Wudang's reputation because of themselves. Speaking of which, Zhang Sanfeng frowned lightly and said, Cuishan, just go. I have a teacher here. As he spoke, Zhang Sanfeng stood up and lowered his hand, saying, My teacher said it's a righteous school, it's a righteous school. My teacher said it's an evil school, it's an evil school. Remember, this is the martial arts world, especially in Wudang. Zhang Sanfeng spoke out with a contemptuous tone, causing Zhang Cuishan to lose focus. Looking at his back, Zhang Cuishan felt a moment of surprise, but soon realized it. Yes, his master is a great martial arts expert in the Ming Dynasty. Upon reflection, Zhang Cuishan was deeply moved and felt a sour nose. Thank you, master, he said. Zhang Sanfeng nodded lightly and said, Go ahead. After leaving the quiet room, Susu followed Zhang Cuishan with a rather complicated expression. Looking up, I saw Zhang Cuishan doing the same. Cuishan. What's wrong? It is said that Zhang Zhenren is kind and immortal, but now he feels a bit different. As the words fell, Zhang Cuishan couldn't understand either. I don't know either. At this moment, the Xixiao Palace was already filled with people. The 3 senior monks of Shaolin Temple, along with Yi Taichong and others from Kunlun, were welcomed by Song Yuanxiao and took the lead in entering the temple. And the 5 elders of Kongtong, with a slight difference in their seniority according to the Shaolin Temple, were received by Yu Lianzhou, while the others, according to their seniority, were extrapolated one by one. However, there are indeed too many people coming to Wudang Mountain to celebrate their birthday this time. These people gathered together, taking up the vast Xixiao Palace. It's not an exaggeration to say it's crowded. Helplessly, the crowd who couldn't find a place outside either sat on the ground or on the stone platform, squeezing, and they just squeezed together. The disciples brought by the master stood aside. After the reception was completed, Song Yuanxiao and his senior brothers gathered together and glanced at each other. Lighting whispered, Big brother, what should we do? Song Yuanxiao furrowed his brows and looked through the curtain at the crowd with deep gaze. These people are coming towards my 5th brother. Speaking of which, Song Yuanxiao had an idea and looked around. Master once said, if anyone dares to be reckless, they should be cleared out directly. We Wudang cannot allow outsiders to interfere. As the words fell, the senior brothers exchanged a glance and nodded together, making up their minds. In the Purple Sky Palace, although there were many people, it was very quiet. They all silently remained silent, just exchanging glances and secretly making eye movements. The 3 monks from Shaolin Temple were the first to speak up. Amitabha Buddha. After reciting the Buddha's name, Kongwen spoke up first. Today we came to Wudang, but why didn't we see the figure of Zhang Zhenren? With a single voice, everyone behind them immediately spoke in agreement. That's right, this real person doesn't take me seriously. After speaking, a stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and the crowd murmured softly. Not far away, Zhang Sanfeng held his hand and sneered at the words, What kind of goods are you all? Immediately, inside the Xixiao Palace, Kongji's eyelids drooped, and he understood Kongwen's words. With another Buddhist chant, he turned his head and looked at a Wudang disciple beside him. I heard that Zhang Wuxia and his wife have also returned to Wudang recently, but really. On the side, the little Taoist paused and nodded slightly, Yes, I'm back. As soon as the little Taoist finished speaking, the crowd instantly quieted down again. In the back hall, when the 7 heroes of Wudang saw this, they sneered and said, These people are in vain of being a noble and upright sect. So since that's the case, why don't we see Zhang Zhenren and Zhang Wuxia? Speaking of which, the crowd became even more agitated. Yeah, why didn't you see Zhang Wuxia? Wudang has such a big reputation. Now that we have come to congratulate you, we haven't seen Zhang Zhenren, but we haven't seen Zhang Wuxia either. Are you really not taking me seriously? After speaking, Zhang Cuishan's gaze sank in the back hall and he was about to move forward. But before they could move, Susu and Song Yuanxiao grabbed Zhang Cuishan on the side. 5th brother, don't be impulsive. Yes, Cuishan. Yin Susu also spoke up, looking at Zhang Cuishan with a heart-wrenching expression in her eyes. For this reason, Yin Susu's words were somewhat urgent. Listen to Big Brother, don't be impulsive. Yin Susu spoke softly, but as soon as the words fell, Yu Daiyan's expression suddenly changed, and a light flickered in his eyes. That person back then. It was you. Is there anyone else reading this book? If there are any, I will be more or less. You are listening at novelfull.audio. To further improve the reading quality, the author is revising this chapter and will read it again in 24 hours. Please refer to the next chapter. If you have subscribed to the VIP chapter, there will be no duplicate charges for next viewing. If you have not subscribed, there will be no deduction for this time. Chapter 5. How brave. And you have to dismantle me, purple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the words fell, all 7 Wudang heroes fell silent. Yu Daiyan's words came abruptly, but when he turned his head, he saw Yu Daiyan staring with red eyes. There were mixed emotions in my eyes, both surprise and pain. Before she could react, Yin Susu's face turned pale. This matter has been over 10 years, and Yin Susu naturally knew that Yu Daiyan's disability was related to herself. In the past, Yu Daiyan obtained the dragon-slaying knife. In order to prevent further fighting in the martial arts world, Yu Daiyan wanted to bring the dragon-slaying knife to Wudang Mountain and asked Zhang Sanfeng to handle it. But when they arrived in the Qiantang area, they were directly ambushed and locked up as scheduled, deceiving them into taking the dragon-slaying knife. Subsequently, the Longmen Escort Agency received a commission to send Yu Daiyan back to Wudang Mountain, but on the way, his legs were directly disabled by a skilled expert. The expert behind that is Yin Susu. For a moment, everyone in the room remained silent. Yin Susu's face turned surprisingly white, and Yu Daiyan trembled and raised his finger, pointing at Yin Susu with blood-red eyes. I want to open my mouth, but I don't know what to say. The archenemy who once injured himself has now transformed into his 5th younger brother and sister. And the most surprised expression was on Zhang Cuishan's face. It was still a long time before Zhang Cuishan realized. Susu, what my 3rd brother said is true. After finishing a sentence, Yin Susu sighed and took a step forward. She couldn't avoid it. Before coming to Wudang Mountain, Yin Susu had already planned to change her voice and not be exposed. But I didn't expect that when I was in a hurry just now, I spoke in my original voice, and more importantly, it was still in front of Yu Daiyan. 3rd brother. Yin Susu spoke softly, but after speaking, Yu Daiyan also reacted, gritted his teeth, shook his hand, brick, and no longer looked at him. That day, in the Qiantang River, I was the one who hurt you with mosquito needles while hiding in the cabin. Later, he stabbed you with a 7-star nail in his palm and deceived the person with the dragon-slaying knife in your hand, which was my brother, the king of Yin. 2 words, like a time bomb, directly silenced everyone, but they didn't know what to do. Zhang Cuishan's breathing was rapid, and a hint of anger appeared in his gloomy eyes. Just as he was about to step forward, he couldn't help but stumble. My favorite woman actually caused my 3rd brother to be disabled. Susu, why didn't you tell me earlier? Cuishan, how can I tell you? I'm your wife, how dare I say it? As the words fell, Zhang Cuishan only felt the surge of qi and blood, and unconsciously spat out a mouthful of blood. You! Zhang Cuishan let out a roar and drew his sword, ready to stab him. And when Yin Susu saw this in front of her, she felt guilty and didn't avoid it. Instead, she straightened her chest even more out of guilt. Seeing the sword stab, Song Yuanxiao reacted and struck down Zhang Cuishan's sword. Just because the master instructed not to harm the 2 of them. Cuishan, don't be impulsive. Although Song Yuanxiao doesn't understand, after all, his master has a destiny and must be stopped. On this side, Zhang Cuishan let out a shout of anger, but no longer spoke. The back hall, like this, had long been listened to by the quiet crowd in the Xixiao Palace. In Susu's confession is directly equivalent to a disguised admission. Back then, after Yu Daiyan was released from the Longmen Escort Agency and returned to Wudang, the entire Longmen Escort Agency was destroyed, causing a sensation in the martial arts world. Now, with In Susu's words, how can these people sit still? Moreover, there is also Xie Xun's whereabouts on Zhang Wuxia. Immediately, Kong Xing couldn't help but recite the Buddhist name, stood up gently, and went straight to the back hall. Zhang Wuxia, long time no see. Empty long eyebrows drooping low, leaning on a Zen stick in one hand, and speaking softly. Seeing the empty movements, in an instant, the purple sky palace also began to become chaotic. Zhang Cuishan saw the commotion in the front hall and naturally knew that these people were coming towards him. He immediately arched his hand and spoke up. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the 100th birthday of our family and teachers. Wudang is grateful for your love and congratulations. Wudang is immensely grateful. But now is a great day for my family and teachers. These grudges and grievances in the martial arts world are not suitable. Senior, when this matter is resolved, Cuishan will definitely reveal the significance of the matter. But as the words fell, there was a commotion in the crowd. Since Zhang Wuxia said that, I'll get straight to the point. Zhang Wuxia, we came here not only to congratulate Zhang Zhenren on his birthday, but also to inquire about Xie Xun's whereabouts. That's right, Zhang Wuxia claims to be morally righteous and indulges evil thieves. Why, we are from a prestigious and upright sect, can't we ask? Upon hearing this, Zhang Cuishan followed the direction of the voice and saw that the person was none other than Zawazi from the Kunlun sect. Xie Xun has never had a grudge against the Kunlun sect, and now, the Westwazi's intention to provoke is even more apparent. But, to put it plainly, there are not many people who have a grudge against Xie Xun, just for that dragon-slaying knife. Unfortunately, only Zhang Cuishan knew Xie Xun's whereabouts. Ladies and gentlemen. Seeing Zhang Cuishan's blood-red eyes, Song Yuanxiao also felt a little angry. Wudang, when did you suffer such injustice? Song Yuanxiao opened his mouth and stood directly in front of Zhang Cuishan, saying, today is the birthday of our master. If you all wish to celebrate your birthday, Wudang will naturally welcome you. However, if you have any other intentions, we apologize for not welcoming you. After the words fell, there was another commotion. What's going on? Wudang is a prestigious and righteous sect, but now it's not possible to shield people from the demon cult. Since that's the case, then Wudang is still talking about prestigious and upright sections. That's it. We've been up the mountain until now, and we haven't seen the figure of Zhang Zhenren. Wudang is really so arrogant. The crowd was in turmoil, and at the forefront, the three senior monks of Shaolin Temple chanted Buddhist names silently, but the meaning was already clear. Zhang Wuxia boasts of morality, but he still shields people from the demon cult. In my opinion, he doesn't gain much morality either. Zhang Cuishan gritted his gums tightly, his eyes bloodshot, and various pressures pressed on him, some of which couldn't withstand the pressure. Song Yuanxiao was also extremely angry. Even though Song Yuanxiao was gentle, he couldn't let anyone defecate on his neck. So everyone, what does it mean to say, you don't even leave, and, congratulations on your birthday, ... As he spoke, Song Yuanxiao's voice suddenly became cold. How come you really think that Wudang is made of mud? Amitabha Buddha. Master Kongwen recited the Buddha's name and spoke softly, Shaolin and Wudang are both prestigious and righteous sections. However, now there are people from Wudang who shield people from the demon sect. Today is also Zhang Zhenren's 100th birthday. In my opinion, it's better to hand over Zhang Wuxia to avoid harming the innocent. Song Yuanxiao's eyes twitched and he said, our Wudang affairs will be resolved by Wudang. Benefactor, is this not to be paid? No submission. Ah, Amitabha Buddha. Kongwen let out a light sigh, and with a little Zen stick in his hand, he walked straight to Zhang Cuishan in an instant. I saw Kongwen reaching out and grabbing Zhang Cuishan at such a fast speed. The electric light and firestone were visible, sudden, and a strong pressure dispersed. Shaolin is a good means, why bother demolishing my Xixiao palace? Is there anyone else reading this book? If there are any, I will be more or less. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 6. Zhang Sanfeng. Cuishan, what's there? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. With these words, the crowd instantly quieted down. Although they didn't see the person, the sound made them extremely familiar. Even Kongwen in front couldn't help but tremble all over. His wrinkled face showed a hurried expression, and he looked up and forgot to take a glance. In front of him, the 7 heroes of Wudang also stopped their movements, looking surprised. The sound was familiar to them, and what surprised them now was nothing more than the master's ability. After speaking out, there was an invisible pressure. In an instant, Zhang Sanfeng appeared in front of everyone. This pressure is like a giant rock, pressing on everyone's heart, making everyone gasp for breath. It seems like a layer of ripple haze directly envelopes the entire Wudang mountain. This is the wonderful use of the dayZhang mind technique, which combines light and dust. Song Yuanxiao was extremely surprised, and when he realized it, he turned his head to look at the other junior brothers. Feeling the pressure, he couldn't help but shudder. Master's skill has deepened. Kongwen stood at the forefront, although his expression remained calm, a huge wave had already stirred up in his heart. Underneath his long eyebrows were his slightly closed eyes. He is both a person with profound martial arts skills in the martial arts world and knows Zhang Sanfeng's abilities. However, nowadays, he never expected that Zhang Sanfeng's skills would become even more profound. Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha. The Buddha's name whispered softly from the air, but this time, due to panic, he tried to use the name to calm himself down. But ultimately, it's just a comfort in my heart. Behind Kongwen, Kongji, Kongxing, and others also stood there. The back hall was already not big, and now it was full of people. At first, these monks had a simple idea, just ask Zhang Cuishan. If Zhang Cuishan doesn't agree, then come and force it. This back hall is no match for the front hall. Everyone is rushing forward, and Zhang Cuishan is sure to die. But now, at first glance, this back hall has actually become a cage that traps themselves. In front of Song Yuanxiao, a white light flashed, and a beam of light appeared directly in front of everyone. Why are people from Shaolin so enthusiastic today? Are they celebrating the old Taoist's birthday or something else? The light was dazzling, making it difficult for everyone to open their eyes. After the sound fell, the light dissipated and everyone finally saw clearly. At this moment, Zhang Sanfeng was dressed in a plain robe, with crane hair and a childlike appearance. He stood with his hands down, as if a fairy had descended. On the surface, Zhang Sanfeng's mouth slightly raised, with a friendly expression, and his tone of voice remained ordinary. However, as Kongji followed his gaze and looked up, his face couldn't help but stiffen. Zhang Sanfeng's eyes were as deep as the sea, and he only glanced at them as if he was about to be sucked in by them. What a powerful internal force! Kongji sighed in his heart and quickly shifted his gaze away from him, afraid to look at him. Zhang Sanfeng is over 100 years old, but he has been groomed with white hair and a childlike appearance. Isn't that? The more Kongji thinks, the more frightened he becomes. Isn't it true that he has cultivated something different? Thinking to himself, Kongji also reacted and took a deep breath to calm his emotions, placing his palm straight on his chest. Amitabha Buddha, how has Zhang Zhenren been lately? I'm very good, Taoist. Zhang Sanfeng chuckled and said, I'm celebrating my 100th birthday today, and I never expected so many people to come and congratulate me. Speaking of which, Zhang Sanfeng's smile grew even brighter as he continued, it's also because Wudang was not well prepared, making it seem like it's targeting me. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard Zhang Sanfeng chuckling lightly. But these words, in their ears, were not ordinary. Inside and outside of the words, Zhang Sanfeng has already begun to blame him. Yuanxiao. Behind Zhang Sanfeng, Zhang Yuanxiao heard Zhang Sanfeng's call and gently arched his hand, Master. Guide these guests to the square outside the Jinwu Hall. This place is too small to open. Yes. Song Yuanxiao spoke softly, feeling even more strange as he looked at Zhang Sanfeng. He always feels like his master is different. Is it difficult to avoid the world? Thinking about it, Song Yuanxiao also missed the other Wudang's 6 heroes to start receiving him. But when Zhang Cuishan was about to move, he was left behind directly by Zhang Sanfeng. Cuishan, you have been out for many days, and now that you have returned, please accompany me by my side. Upon hearing this, Zhang Cuishan's eyes immediately became moist. My master is really kind to me. But everyone in the distance had a gloomy and uncertain expression. What did Zhang Sanfeng mean by this move? Outside the Jinwu Hall, Zhang Sanfeng sat cross-legged on a cushion, with a table in front of him. Ahead, only those with high seniority are qualified to sit in front of Zhang Sanfeng. The 3 senior monks of Shaolin Temple looked at each other and were a bit unsure. Zhang Sanfeng suddenly inserted a horizontal bar, which made them feel a bit awkward. Moreover, with the appearance of Zhang Sanfeng when he came out just now, it's probably not an exaggeration to say he's a fairy. With a pair of eyes, I also had an idea in my heart. Since you're not sure, let's test it first. With a Buddhist title of emptiness, he spoke first. Zhang Zhenren, today I am from Shaolin. Congratulations to Zhang Zhenren on his 100th birthday. In addition, Zhang Wuxia returned to Wudang today. Our main purpose of coming this time is to congratulate you on your birthday, and secondly, to ask some questions. Zhang Sanfeng nodded lightly and said, the old Taoist has been avoiding the world for a long time. Only his disciples like to go down the mountain to experience. Since he has arrived today, if you want to ask, just ask. After speaking, Zhang Sanfeng turned his head to look at Zhang Cuishan and said, Cuishan, what's there? What should I say? Zhang Cuishan took 2 steps forward and arched his hand at the crowd, saying, Senior, since you have received orders from your family teacher, you can just ask. Zhang Wuxia, we still want to ask about the whereabouts of the Golden Lion King Xie Xun. This. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Cuishan furrowed his brow. After a long time, he gently arched his hand and shook his head, forgive me for not obeying. These 4 words seemed to hit them right in the bud. Zhang Wuxia claims to be from a prestigious and upright family, but why not cover up the demon? Yeah, Zhang Wuxia, you need to give us an explanation. Speaking of this, Zhang Sanfeng snorted softly behind him, everyone, although my disciple doesn't have much ability, he is honest and upright. If you ask, you can also ask some useful questions. If you ask about Xie Xun's whereabouts, my disciple will definitely not say anything. When Zhang Sanfeng spoke, his voice became slightly quieter, but it was impossible not to ask. They came this time just to inquire about Xie Xun's whereabouts. If they can't find out, they will definitely find something to vent their anger. Zhang Zhenren. Kong Ji continued to speak, today's event may be a birthday celebration, but there should also be an end to the events in the martial arts world. Zhang Wuxia, I ask you, do you know about the Longmen Escort Agency and my Shaolin disciples? Zhang Cuishan gritted his teeth, and this forced question made it difficult for Zhang Cuishan to answer. Back then, it wasn't Zhang Cuishan who hurt her, but it was her wife Yin Susu who did. Now that the 2 are already married, they should also move forward and backward together. Zhang Wuxia, someone has seen you kill my disciples with their own eyes. Aren't Wudang disciples afraid to speak falsely? Do my Shaolin disciples dare to speak falsely? After the words fell, several monks walked out from behind Kongji. As soon as the monk walked on the road, Zhang Cuishan knew that these people came for their own lives. Zhang Cuishan gave a miserable smile, his heart already clear. He turned around and knelt down straight towards Zhang Sanfeng. Master, on your birthday today, I have caused trouble for you. However, I have a son named Wuji who was kidnapped by a traitor. I hope Master can take care of him. After speaking, Zhang Cuishan reached out for his sword and pointed it at his neck, ready to commit suicide. Chapter 7. This is really a fairy. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. This speed was incredibly fast, almost in the blink of an eye, Zhang Cuishan's sword had already crossed his neck. In front of Shaolin, the three eminent monks saw this and had no expression on their faces. Kongwen even moved the prayer beads in his hands and began reciting the reincarnation mantra. Upon seeing this, Zhang Sanfeng squinted his eyes, and the profound and clear Tai Chi Dao was instantly aroused. With a loud bang, a burst of true energy dissipated and charged straight towards Zhang Cuishan's long sword. The speed is so fast that it only takes a blink of an eye before Zhang Cuishan's sword edge presses against his neck. But just as he touched his skin, a strong and powerful aura hit Zhang Cuishan's sword. With a loud bang, Zhang Cuishan's whole body paused. In the moment he touched the true energy, his sword seemed to have turned into paper, breaking into several pieces and falling to the ground. A few crisp bangs. Zhang Cuishan widened his eyes, but before he could react, he only felt that the long sword in the book had turned into a hilt. Looking down, the long sword was shattered beyond measure. Fifth brother. Song Yuanxiao reacted and went straight to the side of Zhang Cuishan, afraid that Zhang Cuishan would continue to make any foolish moves. He held down Zhang Cuishan's hands. Master is here, why are you in a hurry? Song Yuanxiao urgently cursed, frowned, and then looked up at Zhang Sanfeng. Yin Susu also felt the same pain, tears streaming down her face. She took 2 steps forward and helped Zhang Cuishan's arm. Are you really trying to force our husband and wife to death? Yin Susu turned her head in anger and looked at the crowd, her voice helpless. But across from them, everyone remained silent, as if there was nothing. Besides, the voices of the old monks at the forefront of Shaolin reciting scriptures. Humph. Zhang Sanfeng lowered his hand and let out a cold snort. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the 100th birthday of the Taoist priest. The Taoist priest said, if you want to come and celebrate, then the Taoist priest will welcome you. But if you don't come, then leave. Although Zhang Sanfeng's tone was light, it carried endless pressure. This pressure enveloped him, as if the high monks of Shaolin Temple and the profound martial arts of these sects could withstand it. But squeezed halfway up the mountain, like some small sects who have not yet qualified to enter the Purple Sky Palace, they are not so lucky. Directly suppressed by this pressure, my eyes widened and I half knelt on the ground. Before I could open my mouth, there was a mouthful of blood. This. Outside, there was a commotion and the crowd was amazed, but inside the Purple Sky Palace, these influential figures with heads and faces were unaware. Because there were too many people coming, it was too crowded to move. Zhang Zhenren once swore not to leave the world, but now, is it difficult to break his promise? Kong Ji finished speaking and looked up at Zhang Sanfeng, with a glint of light in his eyes below his eyebrows. In front of him, Zhang Sanfeng's expression remained calm. Seeing Kong Ji like this, he chuckled lightly. Indeed, he said such things. No, today is the 100th birthday of the Taoist priest, and with the return of his disciple, the Taoist priest is delighted and doesn't want to see blood. Zhang Sanfeng's words were obscure, but everyone in the audience was not foolish either. They went up Wudang Mountain under the pretext of today's centenary birthday. If it's not resolved today, if Zhang Cuishan leaves tonight or at some time, where will they go to find him? After thinking for a moment, a shout was heard in the crowd. Zhang Wuxia married the fairy of the Heavenly Eagle sect and became sworn brothers to the evil thief Xie Xun. It seems that he is not a good person. Today, he committed suicide, which was a self-inflicted act, and he died more than enough. The last word Gu didn't say anything, but the person suddenly stopped and stood still, staring wide-eyed. Wow! With another sound, the person spewed out a mouthful of blood and fell directly to the ground. When this person falls, the others become even more calm. And Kunlun He Taichong never expected that Zhang Zhenren would actually take action. Meanwhile, everyone was equally surprised in their hearts. Zhang Sanfeng's cultivation is so unique that with just one movement of his mind, he can kill people. He Taichong turned his eyes around. Zhang Sanfeng was so powerful that if he really started fighting, he might not even be able to pass a single move. Looking up again, Zhang Sanfeng still had a harmless smile on his face. He Taichong was a bit hesitant at the time. As the leader of Kunlun, his skills were not only unparalleled in the world, but also among the best. But it's this kind of thing, when I see Zhang Sanfeng, I feel deeply powerless, just like people from two different worlds. Upon hearing this, Kongji uttered a Buddhist chant. Zhang Zhenren, we are all righteous and prestigious. Today, we are not those who argue with strong arguments. We just want Zhang Wuxia to give us an explanation. Explain. Zhang Cuishan calmed down for a moment and was extremely angry. You took my child, isn't that enough to explain? Zhang Wuxia, don't talk nonsense. After Zhang Cuishan finished speaking, he was refuted by Kongji. My Shaolin is honest and upright, how could I ever do such a careless thing? Yeah. Behind them, a group of monks also spoke up, you confessed with just one child. What about the wives and children of so many people you killed? These monks started blaming each other with every word, but to put it bluntly, although they kept reciting Buddhism, the number of people they killed was not less than Zhang Cuishan's. On the side, He Taichong frowned as he listened. These people from Shaolin Temple really want to die. Just as I finished thinking, the silent abbess of Amei, who had been silent for a long time, came forward directly. Zhang Zhenren has always been pure, and we all know it. But when he came today, his intention was good. Zhang Cuishan colluded with the demonic cult witch and was originally a sinner. Now that Zhang Zhenren is 100 years old, we don't want to cause any trouble. Alright, Zhang Zhenren, you hand over Zhang Cuishan and Yin Susu, and I will prepare a generous gift in the future for you to thank me. As soon as these words were spoken, even on Zhang Sanfeng's calm face, they also stirred up waves. But the extermination of the abbess did not stop, only because her ancestor Guoxiang had a good relationship with Zhang Sanfeng. If Zhang Zhenren doesn't move, then he will forgive the younger generation for being impolite. As she spoke, Abbess Mia, holding a heavenly sword, stabbed towards Zhang Cuishan. Zhang Sanfeng furrowed his brows and suddenly, his pressure increased several times, directly pressing on everyone. For a moment, the pressure was like a heavy burden. I only heard a thumping sound. Nun extermination only felt a darkness before her eyes, and by the time she realized it, she had already flown backwards. Kneel down. Nun exterminated for a moment, struggling to get up, but the more she struggled, the heavier the pressure on her body. When she looked up, she saw a burst of true qi on Zhang Sanfeng's body, soaring straight into the sky. Zhang Sanfeng finished his sentence with a single sound, took a gentle step, and walked directly to the face of the extermination abbess. Who gave you the courage to speak like that? After speaking, Zhang Sanfeng's eyes narrowed, and the exterminated nun felt a surge in her chest. With a whoosh, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhang Sanfeng's gaze lowered as he fell back on the heavenly sword in the hands of the extinction abbess. Reaching out his hand, he pointed to the airspace and suddenly, the heavenly sword broke free from the hand of the extinction abbess and flew towards the Zhenwu hall. You don't have the qualifications either, hold the heaven sword. This time, everyone was surprised. Zhang Sanfeng did not take any action from beginning to end. If he really talked about it in detail, if he said he would take action, it would be a finger. Abbess Qian, who is also a top-notch expert, was shocked by Zhang Sanfeng's breath and flew backwards like a small grass. This is probably a fairy.